Welcome to OLC4O. This is Term 1A. We are on Class 28, Unit 3. Today we'll be working on Lesson 15 and Key Question 15. This is Week 8, and it is October 22nd, 2025, and this is Jillian Percy. All the ways to contact us. The studio number is 1-800-465-7144. Remember that if you call and talk to me, we are on the air live. The office number is 1-800-667-3703, extension 2211. That is a toll-free number. Email jillian.percy@nnec.on.ca or jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. I have a Facebook for students if you want to reach out to me. It is capital G, capital P-E-R-C-Y, space, capital W-A-H-S-A. Now, if you just send me a friend request, it doesn't always show up. It will show up if you send me a message. So make sure to send me a message. Let me know what your proper student name is and then what class you're in, because I teach 4 different classes. And if there is a specific question or assignment you're asking me about, let me know what that is. All right, all the classes are recorded live and then saved and put onto YouTube. There are 2 YouTube channels you can check things out. There is the school channel, which is the WASA Distance Education YouTube channel, and there is my teacher one, which is also G Percy WASA. So you would look for 2526 Term 1A OLC40. That's the course. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, this doesn't quite match up to what I've got, then you probably have last year's version of the course, which is totally fine. I absolutely take that. And you would just look at last year's classes, that's all. So 24-25, OLC40, I would use Term 2B. And that should be available both on the school site, and I believe it's still available on mine as well, okay? All right, here is how to hand in your work. Please send it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. If you want to, you can include me in it, like CC me. When we do that, the secretary can log that you submitted the work, and also it keeps your work available to other teachers in case someone else took over the course. Whenever you hand me anything in, please make sure at the top of your assignments you've written your full name, the course name, the assignment name and number. If it's a writing assignment and it's asking you for a rough draft or a good draft or a polished draft, please label that at the top. Don't make me guess, okay? Sometimes those are marked very differently and for a completely different amount of marks, and I would hate to mark your good copy as your rough copy and you lose half your marks, right? Handing in assignments. Although the nationwide postal strike is finished, we are still doing rotating postal strikes, and I strongly suggest that you do not send your assignments in through the post. However, you can give it to the DEC at the Learning Center and ask them to scan it and email it on to me. You can also fax it 1-800-463-7852, that's in Ontario, or 1-877-990-2023, that's if you're anywhere else in Canada. Let me know that you're going to do that, though, so I can turn on the fax machine because it's normally on sleep mode. If you live in town, you're welcome to bring the assignments to the office. You're also welcome to come on over and talk to me, and I can help you with assignments if you want to. That's true if you come into town for medical or something. Feel free to let me know that you want to stop by, and I'll try and make sure that I'm here whenever you're able to arrive. If you want to do all your assignments on computer and type them up, that's great. Then just email them to me as an attachment. Some people like to share documents with me through Google Docs. Make sure to include me and the student work email when you do that, and make sure that you're allowing us to view it and edit it. Otherwise, I can't see the assignment and I can't print it, and I am old school. I definitely mark by my physical copy, okay? A lot of students like to handwrite their assignments. That's totally fine. And then they often photograph their assignments and send it to me in Facebook or an email. When you're doing that, make sure you only take a picture of one page at a time. Check that the writing is not blurry, okay? I won't be able to read it if the photograph is blurry. Don't tilt the phone while taking the photograph. Try and be as completely square over top of your assignment as you can. Otherwise, I end up with one half of the page really tiny and the other half really big. Send it as an attachment rather than just sharing it with me as an email, okay? For some reason, when you share it, I end up seeing the upper left-hand corner, like 1 inch of the page. So please send it as an attachment instead. It just works way better. If you think you're going to be sending a lot of photographs, I beg you to please download a scanner app and do it with the scanner app instead, because it will take much better quality photographs, okay? So it doesn't cost any money. You can download Adobe Scan, which is free. It's not really much harder to use than a camera. You would install it, then you'd open it up, hold it over top of your assignments. There's little dots that line up with the corners, or like a little rectangular border that you can line up. You take the picture, and then you would keep doing that for all the pages of your assignment. Hit continue when you feel like you're done, and then it will let you preview it. At that point, you can reorder the pages, you can crop the pages, you can retake a picture if you decide it's too blurry. Then you hit Save PDF and give it a name. Then share or save your file to Google Drive, Dropbox, or your computer. Okay? So week 8 planner, as of today, after this, there are only 5 classes left. All right, there we go. Okay, so we are on class 28, lesson 15. I think we may end up doing a little bit of 15 tomorrow. We may get to lesson 16. We'll see how that goes. So yesterday we ended with lesson 14. We were on page 55 in unit 3. Now we're going to be starting on page 56 in unit 3 with lesson 15. Lesson 15 is going to be all about researching and developing an informational report. The success criteria for lesson 15. By the end of this lesson, you will have achieved the learning goals if you can gather information from a variety of sources on a research topic, use appropriate strategies to organize ideas and information for writing, create a rough draft and a revised draft of research in the format of an informational report, edit for grammar, spelling, punctuation, and capitalization errors, and quote and cite sources accurately in your report. Okay, gathering information for research. One important reason to develop your literacy skills is to be able to do research on topics that are important to you, whether for work, school, or your personal life. Whenever you do research, it's important to look at multiple sources to be sure that you're getting accurate information and seeing the complete picture. So let's say you just got told a medical diagnosis by your doctor and you want to know more about it. Well, you want to be able to research it accurately and make sure you're getting reliable resources so that you know what you're getting is the straight up facts, right? Because often doctors are pretty rushed and they don't necessarily give you the whole picture. Many of the reading strategies that we have used are important for doing research. For example, you might try skimming a website to get a quick overview as to whether it's going to be useful. Other times, you may be looking for a specific piece of information and use scanning techniques. It is also important to prioritize the information you are reading and decide what parts are important for your research. After that, you will need to summarize all these important points into a coherent paragraph or series of paragraphs that is clear, logical, and organized. If you print off the internet research, you can try highlighting or underlining the important information. Sometimes all the information can seem important, so you need to be choosy about it. Remember that you're only writing a very short report, so there just isn't room for every piece of information. You're going to have to prioritize to decide what needs to be kept in and what could safely be left out. Okay, so here's an example. This is an article on Ontario's Bill 5 that was recently passed. If I was looking through this, I would want to be thinking, okay, if I wanted to summarize or just get the main points of this, what is the most important stuff that I need to know about what this is telling me about Bill 5? So I'd grab a highlighter or a pencil and I would, hang on, maybe this will work better. Let me see if that, yeah, I like that as a highlighter. Okay, so during Ontario's February electoral campaign, Doug Ford capitalized on domestic and international stories, which affectionately dubbed him Captain Canada, donning a Canada is not for sale hat and engaging in open criticism of the U.S. President Donald Trump. Ford captured a third consecutive majority government. In the months since, however, the governing progressive conservatives have struggled to translate these slogans into tangible policy objectives. So this is a good introduction. I don't know whether any of that's like 100% important. So I'm going to keep reading and see what I think. Critics may be quick to say that such is to be expected. Outside of general allusions to cutting red tape and taxes, the Ford era has been marked by numerous blunders, both in policy and rhetoric. If privileged government contracts and attacks on the judiciary sound familiar, they should. They are reminiscent of affairs south of the border. This brings us to the matter of Bill 5, the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act 2025, which the provincial legislature passed into law on June 4th. Okay, so I'm going to do that because that's kind of really the main thing I was reading this for. Make sense? Oops. Sorry, it's hard to do it straight with a cursor. As a massive omnibus bill, it contains provisions relating to the rollback of environmental assessments and protections and the gutting of the Endangered Species Act. It also exempts the Ontario Place Redevelopment Project from parts of the Environmental Bill of Rights. So I'm going to say that this first massive sentence is pretty important. I don't know if the Ontario Place thing is super important because of where we live or not. I'm going to leave it there for the moment, just get the first two. There is also Schedule 9, or the Special Economic Zones Act, which will, as the name suggests, create special economic areas that allow a company or a project to be exempt from provincial laws, regulations, and municipal bylaws. How this will materialize in practice is anyone's guess, but the legislation is absurdly broad, meaning it could translate into anything from the suspension of basic workplace protections, environmental standards, or Indigenous rights. Okay, so I'm going to underline this sentence. Now, the next sentence, I don't need the whole thing. I just mean I need this part. It could translate into anything from the suspension of workplace protection, environmental standards, and Indigenous rights. As Mark Winfield argues, this is to be expected as officials dabble in authoritarian populism. Much of Bill 5 hinges on redirecting regulatory oversight to Cabinet, meaning that decisions rendering something a special economic zone could occur without debate in the legislature. So this part is commentary. I don't need that, but I do want this stuff. Now, I've underlined an awful lot. If I were to summarize this, I'd have to put a lot of this into my own words. This is only part of the article. I didn't have room for all of it. But this is the kind of idea where when you're reading, you're not going to need everything. You just need some of what you read. Okay? Okay. You can use a graphic organizer like the one that is included later on in this lesson, or you can design one of your own if you like. It's generally a good idea to make notes on what you're reading, rather than try to write your report while looking at the internet research. Making your own notes helps to condense the information into a more manageable format. Try to organize the information from the different sources under topics or groupings. For example, you might find multiple pieces of information on the salary range of a job you are researching. If these sources are in agreement with each other, just pick the most reliable source and report that. If they conflict with each other, you might report both wage estimates along with which source they came from. So here's an example of that. This is what I got from the Indeed job site when I asked what was a typical construction worker's salary. They said it was about $47,287 a year. I'm surprised they put it yearly. I'd really rather see by the hour for construction because that's normally how people are paid. It's not usually a salary job. And then when I went over to the Canadian Government Job Bank, Here they have hourly wages by community area. And down here at the bottom, I don't know if you can see this. Hang on a second. Okay. Down here, well, let me do it. Yep, okay. There is the Ontario. So the low is $18 an hour. The medium, that's kind of right in the middle, is $25 an hour. And the high is $40 an hour. So first of all, I want to translate either this into our how much pay per hour, or turn this into a yearly wage, because right now I'm comparing apples to oranges. I don't know if one's higher or less. What I did was I turned this information into a yearly wage to compare them. And I might report it like this, like I'd want to say where my sources are. So I said, according to Indeed Job Bank, the average yearly salary for construction workers is $47,287. The Canadian Government Job Bank quotes a range of $18 an hour up to a possible $40 an hour. If we assume a 40-hour work week times 50 weeks of work, that equals $36,000 to $80,000 for a yearly wage. That's a huge difference, right? So it looks like Indeed kind of cut right in the middle, but it's possible to make less and it's possible to make a whole lot more. I'm going to assume for stuff where maybe it's specialty construction work, like roofing or something, where it's not everybody knows how to do it kind of thing. Okay, putting things in your own words. It can be really tempting to just cut and paste the information from the internet directly into your report, but try to avoid this. It is important that you restate information in your own words, which is called paraphrasing. Using someone else's work word for word and claiming it as your own is considered academic dishonesty or plagiarism, which, by the way, I mentioned this at the beginning of the year, but I'm going to re-mention it now. If I notice that you've plagiarized, I will ask you to redo the work. I will not mark it. That includes using things like ChatGPT, okay? Having said all that, it usually isn't very effective anyways. Paragraphs where you've cut and pasted and just kind of grabbed sentences out usually sound a bit disjointed and confusing because they lack a sense of logical flowing connection. So they sound a little bit odd. So here's an example of, this was from the Canadian Encyclopedia, where I grabbed some information about World War I. It's a huge article. There's no way for me to put it all here. So I'm not going to read it all, but what I did was I just grabbed a sentence or two from each paragraph that I thought was important. And you can hear it, see what you think. To me, it sounds a bit clunky because it doesn't flow smoothly from one idea to the next like it would if I had written it. Okay, so here's how it sounds right now. So when Britain's ultimatum to Germany to withdraw its army from Belgium expired on the 4th of August 1914, the British Empire, including Canada, was at war, allied with Serbia, Russia, and France against the German and Austro-Hungarian empires. On the 3rd of October, the first contingent of 30,617 men sailed for England. In patriotic fervor, Canadians demanded that Germans and Austrians be dismissed from their jobs and interned and pressured Berlin, Ontario to rename itself Kitchener. At first, the war hurt a troubled economy, increasing unemployment and making it hard for Canada's new debt-ridden transcontinental railways, the Canadian Northern and the Grand Trunk Pacific, to find credit. Since many farm laborers had joined the army, farmers began to complain of a labor shortage. By the end of 1914, the target for the Canadian Expeditionary Force was 50,000. By summer of 1915, it was 150,000. So, I don't know, can you hear how clunky that is? How it's just kind of jumping from one topic to the next? And doesn't really make sense for why are we jumping from one topic? Are they connected? They're really not. And that's why they sound that way. So please don't plagiarize. It's usually very obvious. Okay. It's also another reason why making notes can be helpful. If you start making notes off of what you read before you start to try to write your rough draft, It forces you to begin to condense the information and put it in your own words before you even get to that stage of writing. So it automatically sort of eliminates the possibility of plagiarism. If there are really important phrases or information that you think should be repeated word for word, then put quotation marks around them to show that they are someone else's words and use a tag to explain who is speaking. There's an example below. Confederation College states that, quote, graduates from this program are in high demand and find many companies looking for employees with this training and skills. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily a quote that I would have put there, but it could. If there was something that where, somebody famous was making some sort of really famous quote and you wanted to use it exactly, that's fine. But you don't want your entire assignment to be quotes, because then you aren't doing the writing and there's nothing for me to mark. Okay? That is another case where if you put the whole thing in quotations, and I've occasionally had people do that, I will ask you to rewrite it. I won't mark it till it's rewritten. Okay? All right, creating citations. When you do this type of research and then report on it, it's really important to let the reader know where you got your information by naming the sources, like in the example above where I talked about the Confederation College, right? This is a big part of academic writing, and it's called citing your sources. For this paragraph that you're writing, you must have 2 to 3 different sources that you can use as the sources for where you got your career facts. Each academic discipline, like languages, social sciences, hard sciences, they've got different ways they like to see their sources cited or named. For us, we're going to be using what's known as MLA style, which stands for Modern Language Style. It's a pretty typical format in English classes. You might be, depending on what you've taken before, you might have used APA or Chicago. They're usually very similar, but not exactly alike. Just if you're not sure, make sure you look up MLA style and follow that appropriate style. So everything I'm telling you now about how to cite sources is based on MLA. There are 2 main ways to cite a source. First of all, you can directly use the source name when you introduce the fact, and then include the page number in brackets at the end of the sentence. If it's a book, the title is put in italics, which is like slanted letters when you type. And if you handwrite your title, then you'd underline it instead, because it's kind of hard to slant. So here's an example. The Career Handbook says that jobs in information technology continue to grow and are a great career choice. 35, that's the page you'd find it on. Handwritten example, exact same stuff. It's just they've underlined it instead. You can also state the fact and then put the source and page number at the end of the sentence. When you do this, you still are going to need to italicize the book title if you're typing, or underline it when you're writing. So here it sounds like, jobs in information technology continue to grow and are a good choice for the future. And then in parentheses, the Career Handbook, page 35. Okay. Now that's for books. A lot of us are going to be using internet sources. You can still cite a source. The location of an online work should include the URL. Remove any HTTP :// tag from the beginning of the URL. Oh, that one, I'm sorry, that repeated it. Or the www. Sorry. I wonder why that ended up there twice. www. Everybody knows that, so you don't need to put that part in. You can reference the source in a couple of ways. First, you can name the source in your sentence and then put the URL at the end in the brackets. Here's an example. The University of Windsor website discusses how to review and reply to an offer of admission. And then they put it there, and I actually did put the www, but that's okay. I also put when it was accessed. And the reason for that is because websites change all the time. So I'm telling you, this is the information that was available when I checked it. If you're reading my report 5 years down the road, you might not be able to find it. On the other hand, because I'm telling you when you can find it, maybe you could use the Wayback Machine and find it then. Okay? The other thing you can do, you can write the sentence and put the source at the end in parentheses, again, followed by the day you accessed it. Students can be taken for a campus tour around the University of Windsor by student ambassadors, but guests must register ahead of time. Okay? And when you see that kind of what they call it a citation or an in-text citation, it shows you I don't just know this of my own accord, right? I haven't just memorized this. I know this because I read it on the website, right? Whenever you're in academia, you don't want to claim credit for ideas that you didn't generate on your own. This is especially important in things like science, but it's still important in English. And the reason is because there's a lot of research grants that get granted, like money is involved, jobs are involved. If there's mistakes in your research, people want to be able to come and talk to you and clarify what's going on. So we need to know for sure who said what and who's responsible for what. So even though right now, we're just high school students, we're still sort of getting into the habit of how to do this because it's part of showing academic honesty, essentially. Okay. Key question 15, which is all about researching and developing an informational report. Part A, gathering resources and recording information, 25 marks. Choose any career of interest to you and list 3 reasons why you might want to pursue it. 3 marks. Research information on your chosen career, either through internet or print resources. So if you don't have access to the internet, but you have access to the library, that's fine. It does not have to be internet research, okay? Your information should include, there's going to be 3 things, okay? How to get training to do the job at colleges or universities. You can try local colleges like 7 Generations or Confederation College. You can also check out the Ontario College's website, which is ontario.ca. If you have a university you're interested in, you can check out individual university websites like Lakehead or Nipissing or really any other Canadian university. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so 7 Generations. If you haven't gone there before, let me see here. I pulled these up before. Okay. So here's what their main website looks like. I'm on programs. If you weren't sure, you would go to post-secondary programs, right? High school is called secondary, so post-secondary just means after high school. So here they're showing you all their programs. You can search by location. Like if I wanted to see what was available just in Sioux Lookout, they don't actually have a whole lot, unfortunately. What do they have in Dryden? Oh, not very much. I bet Kenora's got a whole lot. Yep, Kenora's got a whole lot. And you can look for part-time or full-time. Great. When is their next intake? Let's say I wanted to see what's available in January. Okay. Maybe I want a specific credential. Maybe I'm just looking for a diploma. Okay, there's a lot more available, right? So I would hunt around and then I would pick something. Let's say I wanted to go do building construction technician. Well, let me go in there. Yes, it will. It's just going slow. Sorry, hang on a second. So now it will tell me all sorts of information. There's an overview. It will tell me exactly what courses I've got to take. Please, I sometimes have people tell me they will literally like list all of this off to kind of pad the paragraph. You don't really need to tell me all the courses. Admission and fees. Now, this is important because it's telling you what you need to have to get in there. You have to have English 4C or English 4U or be able to pass the mature student test. If you're missing anything, they offer some of the common prerequisite courses and you can take it and they will help you. Here's how much it will cost, and there's a financial aid page if you want to learn more about how to apply for bursaries, grants, or OSAP. Here's who you'd contact if you wanted to know more. And here are some career options that might use that training. Is there anything else there? Okay. So if you're looking for stuff, that's one possible site you can look at. Confederation is also a Confederation college here. That's worth taking a look at. Here's what they have. Again, they've got programs and courses up here. Now, keep in mind, there are Confederation colleges all over Ontario. So not everything is going to be offered here in Sioux Lookout. Okay? So you can look for a specific campus. You can also look for distance education. Now keep in mind, not everything is going to be offered in distance education, but some things you could probably do right from home. You can pick a specific area of interest. All right, we've got engineering, health, protective services. That's like guard duty or cops or things like that. Do you want to do full-time, part-time, or online? What kind of credential are you going for? Okay, hang on. So then we've got accommodation and human rights management, addiction and mental health, library and information technician, office administration. Okay, I'm going to grab this. Okay, now they've got a quick overview here. This is what you should be able to do by the end of it. Hang on. It will also tell you the courses. Again, you don't need to tell me the courses, but if you're interested, this tells you what you've got to take. And then we've got how much it costs. I've occasionally had people tell me I couldn't find where it tells you what it costs. I guarantee you it tells you. Here, you might need to go to an extra link if you need to, but it tells you this right here, right? What else we got here? Admission requirements, super important. You need to know what is needed to be able to qualify. Some things may have nothing. Some things may have a lot. Okay. Anything else? More information. Sorry. Okay, program staff. Now, they also have this up here where you download program information. And this has some of the information on the site, but not everything. But it is worth looking at in case there's anything there or that you want to print off. Okay. Now, the Ontario Colleges website, I don't know if you knew this existed or not. This one lists the information from every single college all over Ontario. So if you're willing to move, this is really helpful. But also keep in mind, since COVID, there are a lot more classes offered online than there used to be. There used to be almost nothing, quite frankly. But they've realized now that there's a lot of profit in people being able to do it online. Plus, some people have health issues that make it really hard for them to attend classes regularly because it exposes them to too much risk. So you can hit programs. Now, if you know what you want, you can just kind of put something in here. But you can also narrow it down first by looking at a certain field like animals, careers, education, fire, justice, professions and trades, computers, business, health, engineering. So I'm going to grab, let me think. I'm going to grab computers and telecommunications. Now, it breaks it down further. Do you want to know more about applications, being a programmer, working with software, doing gaming, repairing computers, being a systems or an engineering tech, networking communications, computer security, web design. All right, I am going to grab, let me think here, computer applications. Let's see. So now it lists kind of some generic information. And if I wanted to, oh, there you go, good, okay. So now it pops up, look, there's 150 programs across all of Ontario that I could select. If I know a specific college, I could pick a specific college, and then some of the colleges have more than one campus. I could look for the program length. Maybe I only want something that takes 1 year. Start date, when am I ready to start? This year, next year? What kind of credential do I want to get? What is the language, right? Some things are offered in French. Availability. Obviously, I don't want to look at things that are closed. I can't enter. There's a few things that are waitlisted. I want to look at things that are open, so I would check open. Program level. Am I looking for a degree, a diploma, or post-secondary? I'm not really sure. Program type. For here, I would probably choose distance education. Only a few things are going to come up there. Hang on. Yep, only a few things came up. and then I would pick whatever one I wanted to do and look at that one. You don't have to look at all of these, but I would pick one that you think is going to be helpful, like that you might legitimately go to if it worked out for you, and then start looking at other information, okay? All right. So that's the first thing. You're looking for how would you get the training for your career. Number two, some typical job ads for the job that list what kinds of job duties, skills, training, experiences, or personality traits are needed for this job. You can also report on wages, hours, and typical work conditions. You can try any type of job search website, things like Indeed, Workopolis, Monster, Glassdoor, Canadian Job Bank. So Workopolis, hang on. Yep. Okay. So I can put a city. I could just put the province of Ontario. That'd probably be too much. So let's say I'm looking in, I'm not going to do Sioux-Lookout just for now. I'm going to do, say, Thunder Bay, okay? Just because it'll give me more options. And let's say I want to be an administrative assistant in Thunder Bay. What comes up? All right, a whole bunch of things. So first thing I see is administrative assistant for the Children's Aid Society of the District of Thunder Bay, and then I can flip through and see. Now, here is why I would like take a screenshot of this or print it off so I've got it. You're not going to want to say every single bit of this to me, right? That would be a crazy long article, right? And you might want to print off a few different ones to see, is everybody wanting the same type of thing, or do different jobs expect slightly different types of skills or job duties? Okay. Another one, Indeed is a really common one. Did we get there? Yeah, Indeed. This one again, I'm going to pick Dryden just for fun here. Dryden. Now this is just listing everything that's in Dryden. That's kind of too much. Let me think. What can I put down here? I'm going to put construction. Okay. Are there any construction jobs in Dryden? Yep. Looks like there possibly are. Heavy equipment operator. Oh, they're looking for an instructor. That's a little bit different. Construction miner, a driller, a site superintendent. What else have we got? A carpenter. Okay, I'll grab carpenter. And then I would look. They're telling me the benefits. They're telling me about the job. What are my responsibilities? What should I know how to do? What kind of qualifications should I have? And here's what they offer, why it's good. Down here they tell you what the pay is and some more about benefits. So again, I would look up a few things, preferably on different sites if you can. Where am I? Okay, this is Monster. Same kind of idea. I haven't really used Monster very much. Let's see, let's try Kenora here, just because we've looked at a few other things. Kenora, Ontario. And what could I look for there? My brain's going dead. How about social services? Let's see. Here we go. Social and Human Services Assistant. Oh, didn't like anything. Okay. All right. So if that happens, you just move on, I guess. What have I got next? Oh, this is the one that's local. I don't know if you guys knew this. There used to be an old one that's kind of gone out of date, I guess. And now they have Northwest Employment Works. If you've never used it before, it's really helpful because it is locally based. You would just go to the job bank. You would say where you want to work. They've got Red Lake, Sioux-Lookout, Thunder Bay, White Lake, Marathon, Dryden, or all regions. I'm going to choose, let's see, Red Lake just for fun. Now, I could look at everything. I could also start to weed things out. I don't want a volunteer position. I don't want to do training. I don't want temporary work. I'm not a student. I don't want to do an internship, and I don't want to do casual work. Okay, so that narrowed it down right away. Oop, I've got 3 things possible. Okay, so that's one thing you can look at because it's kind of more local. All right. And then third thing, what kind of outlook or future is there for this type of career? Are there a lot of jobs available for this career in Ontario? And what type of pay range does this job make? Check out the Canadian Job Bank website at, and there's the URL, and check out the tab for labor market information, and it'll give you a bunch of information on job outlooks. Now, this kind of sounds funny if you haven't thought about this before, but some jobs are in the process of going out of date. An obvious one in the past would have been once cars got invented and became cheaper, horse and buggy were no longer as needed. Now they still exist, right, in small amounts, but massive job losses in that area, massive job increases in working in a factory. So there's that kind of thing. Sometimes there's hiring freezes. When I was first graduating, I really wanted to become a librarian, but there was a massive hiring freeze for at least 2 years, and they sounded like it might go for longer. So it was like, well, no point training to be a librarian if they're not hiring right now, right? Because it's a governmental job, and they've already said, we're not hiring anybody. Okay. So this is kind of a nice spot where you can go and check out, is that the kind of job where there's going to be a lot of jobs available in the future? Or is it a job market that's heavily competitive and it's really hard to find work? Because that might be a little more frustrating. Maybe you want to choose a different job. So here's a job search. They have a great job search as well, but it's all of Canada, so it's a lot. There's stuff here about training career quizzes. They're great stuff, but we want the labor market information, especially the outlook reports. Okay. So, hang on, explore the market. Okay, so I'll do cook just because it's there. Yep, great, cook is fine. And then Ontario. Okay, search, yep, province of Ontario. Great. Okay, so it gives me description. The prospects, moderate prospects, I could go into more detail here. Wages aren't very high. What kind of competencies are needed? What are some of the jobs? How many jobs are available right now if I was looking for things? I'm going to go into the prospects. Hang on. Sorry, going kind of slow here. Oh, no, don't tell me you can't reach me. Okay, there we go. Okay, prospects over the next 3 years. Here are some things that contribute to the outlook. There's a moderate number of new positions. Some positions will become available due to retirement. What kind of employers are out there? What are the main trends? What skills do I need? And a whole bunch of key facts about cooks. And then, oh, this is the part I was looking for. Down here at the bottom, it breaks it down by region. So we are, where are we at? I'm going to guess that we're the Northwest region. Let's see if I click on it. Hang on. Sorry, I don't know why the computer's really slow today, guys. Basically, it's going to pull it up and it's going to tell me, is this in comparison to the rest of Ontario? Are there a lot of jobs? Are there less jobs? What is it like? Okay. And there should be. Oh, and sorry, like I said, it's not happy right now. Okay. Hang on, I want to go back. Yeah. I do want to see, is Outlook the same thing as prospects? I thought it was, but I'm not positive. Hang on. Where am I? Oh, yeah, we're running out of time. Sorry. Hang on a sec, guys. Anyways, this is a great site. It has really current stats because it is the government site. You can see that things were updated as recently as December, which is for government really pretty good. So all the stuff in the third, you're going to want to kind of tool around that government site and get information. Now, if you know something about, like, oh, maybe there's a new mine opening or that kind of thing, right? You might get more information about stuff, but this is the site to look around at, okay? All right. Now, if you've used any internet resources, please print off what you used and send them along. I want to see it, okay? If you used books instead, please include a list of the book titles and their authors. I do know some students do not have access to a library or the internet. If that is you, please check in with me or talk to the tutor or the DEC in your area, and I will be able to help you, okay? And then using the information that you've found, fill in the chart below with your information on your chosen career. Please be as detailed as possible because you will be using this information to write a brief report on what you learned. That will be worth 22 marks. So it's looking for, what is the typical education needed for this career? Name at least one college or university you could get this training at. How many years will it take to complete this training? How much would it cost per year to complete this training? How much would it cost to complete the training over all the years? Now, don't tell me I don't know. If you know how much it costs for the training and you know how many years, then it's however many years. Let's say it's 3 years. Hang on. If it's 3 years and it's going to cost, I'm going to give a crazy number like 6,000. I don't know what really is. 6,000. What is 3 times 6,000? It's 18,000. This is probably absurdly low, I'm going to guess right now, to be honest with you. Okay? You just multiply those two so you can figure it out and tell me what it is, all right? Are there any prerequisites needed to complete the training? We looked at there were some courses. Sometimes there's age requirements. Is there any kind of previous training or work experience needed? Then, what is the current outlook for the career in Ontario? That's what we were just looking at on that government site, the outlook or the prospects. What are some typical salaries that people make in this career? Again, there can be a really wide range, right? What are typical job duties? Again, there could be a wide range. Pick the ones that are most common. Are there any typical personality traits that are needed with this career? For example, salespeople need to be outgoing. People who are in interior design need to be able to be creative, right? People who are in computers need to be good with science and probably need to be very detail oriented and good at problem solving, right? It will usually list this. And then name 2 to 3 places that you obtained this information. And as already said, if you used internet sites, please print off the information from at least 2 to 3 of those sites and include it with the assignment. Okay, that is the end of part 1. We will cover part 2 and 3 tomorrow. And yeah, we'll see if we get to lesson 16 or not. If you have any questions about this or any other assignment, please reach out to me and let me know. I would be happy to hear from you. And I hope you have a good evening.